What's up, guys? How y'all doing? Welcome to episode 180 of the Alamodome Audible podcast. We have so much content to get through, and we just recorded last Tuesday. It's crazy. I'm your host, Jared. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Adrian. Adrian, how you doing? Welcome back to the pod.
What is up? What is good? So happy to be here. Yeah, just getting swallowed up this last month preceding the holy matrimony of mine. And just, keeping head over water, staying afloat with the fast moving date and so much to do, even though everything's been done, there's still so much to do. It's just crazy, right? But looking forward to it and excited about it. But yes, man, keeping the head over water. Your boy did his taxes today on the deadline, beat the deadline, got it in. So, we're striding. We're striding into the next phase of life here, sir.
I always say that's like one of the big pains of growing up, or like one of the realizations that you're growing up, because like when you're young and broke and you're going to get a huge tax refund, you file that sucker the first day you can, you know what I'm saying? And then you get older and you have to pay in for the first time. And you're like, oh, I'm going to wait until the last week, the last day, the last hour before I pay any of my hard-earned money over to the government.
Dude, I was over there, dude, just every single break TurboTax was bringing up. I was like, yeah, I think I'm qualified for that. Let's do it. Let's punch it in.
Audited, man. I'm about to delete this episode.
Hey, no, my audit risk level was low according to TurboTax.
You better screenshot that sucker, man.
Yeah, no kidding. I'll go to bat, baby. I got a few dollars. I could fight the case, So, yeah, dude, awesome, just awesome. How about you, man? How's things going in the world of Big Jared Comics?
Hey, I'm kind of in the same boat as you with the wedding planning, and I kind of recoiled a little bit when you said that everything's done, but it's not done, because I keep telling myself, oh, we've just got a few big things left to do. And we did that today. I got the contract for the DJ, which was the last thing that I had to do.
Nice.
And then we got to get like hotel blocks. And then like we're kind of done for a while. I got to pick out my suit, but nothing too major left. But then I think about it and like, man, once the day gets closer, it's just going to be like, here we go again. Just so many things that you wouldn't think of in the planning phase.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then small things will start to pop up as well. Start sneaking up on you. Watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now stay on your toes, dude. Stay on your toes.
Absolutely. Well, cool. I don't want to, daddle around here, because this is one of our most fleshed out football offseason, outlines for an episode we've had in a long time, maybe ever. And again, it's crazy because we just recorded last week.
Well, and last week was chock full as well.
Yeah, I know, dude.
We were running through topics. Yeah. So let's go, baby. Let's dive.
First off, we got to talk about the spring game, man. We got to talk about some real football. Well, I shouldn't say real football, because it wasn't even, it was pretty much a zero contact kind of spring game. They were playing two-hand touch out there.
Was it the least amount of contact that you've seen from a UTSA spring game so far? But
when you look at the sideline, it made total sense. There were so many guys that were injured.
Sure.
There were a lot of guys that were only out there for one series. A lot of guys that did play that we had heard had been dealing with some injury throughout the spring. And then, the running back position obviously has been decimated by injury. If you guys have listened to our last couple of episodes, we've talked about that at length, and seeing in the spring game, I think really drove home, how depleted that position is right now.
Hey, man, it was a long season. Just 4 months ago, these guys finished up a 14-game season. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of wear and tear. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're still very much in that recovery phase even, right? So the body's still kind of warming up and getting back into swing. So take it easy, right? And the other good thing is that we've got enough returning talent to have the luxury to take a little bit easy too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Before we start getting into like specific players and X's and O's and stuff like that, I do want to say like that's kind of my main takeaway from the spring game is it was a big exercise in building depth. Yeah. There are still, even after graduating this huge number of seniors from the last super successful season, there's still like a really low number of positions that are just complete question marks.
Right.
So it was cool. I was telling my friends like this spring game was more enjoyable to watch, even though there was like practically zero content, just because UTSA's second and third string players are so much more talented than they've ever been in the past. So it's like, I guess like a more enthralling experience to watch like a bunch of 3-star athletes and former P5 transfers go head to head.
The fan perspective, right? The UTSA fan feels so much more secure with his and herself, right? Rather than in pre-seasons of years prior. And so now you can actually sit there and watch the spring game and maybe sort of enjoy it and take it for what it is without a million and one questions at every single position and sort of wondering and scratching your head, pulling your hair out almost, right? You're so eager to see and you're kind of nervous and anxious about what you're going to see. Now we're a little more sure of ourselves. And so fans can sort of relax, smell the roses and enjoy the game from that sense. And shit, man, speaking of fans, 3,000 people at Dove Fair Stadium, Northside ISD Athletic. I mean, dude, it was packed. It was packed, man.
Yeah, I was really shocked by that. And I showed up early, and even getting there, 15, 20, 30 minutes early, whenever I was, still, there were a ton of people just sitting around watching the players stretch and stuff. It was wild to me.
And you got there kind of raise your eyebrows like, holy cow, we got ourselves a crowd here today.
I don't want to say it's the biggest crowd UTSA's ever had for a spring game. I think some of the ones in the Alamodome have had more people, but it's definitely the most people I've ever seen at Dove Fairs to watch UTSA practice. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And my favorite anecdote from it too is not just how many people in the community turned out to watch, but you know how it's like technically a Fiesta event, even though Fiesta was over. Whatever. That's a whole can of worms.
It is an officially sanctioned Fiesta.
It is officially sanctioned. So the Fiesta Court, or is that what they're called? The Fiesta Court?
Yeah, you mean the Ray? The
all those guys and gals.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they're always out there, right? And they like present them a signed ball with coach and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. This is the first time I'd ever seen like at least half of the Fiesta Court was wearing UTSA gear.
Oh, nice.
One of them even had their dog out there and they had a dog jersey, UTSA.
It's a big deal, dude. City loves a winner, don't they?
It's a great example of how the city at large is buying in to the Roadrunners and to the university as well, not just the alumni. So that was really cool. And that's just one of those small things that like in the moment, you don't even think twice about. But if you're someone that's been around since day one, like that kind of weird small stuff can feel kind of monumental when you can kind of step back and look at the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's like Sosa leading the Battle of Flowers parade.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we talked about that last podcast. Yeah,
it is kind of a really, really big deal whenever you achieve those community accolades like that.
Yeah, it's just another, another benchmark or another landmark, if you will, of
what it is
efforts to.
It's hard proof, is what it is.
Yeah,
it's hard evidence of the buy-in happening in real time. Year after year, more and more blue and orange just being around the town, right? And dogs wearing the jerseys on their walkthrough.
And of course, it was custom made, right? Like, there's nowhere you can buy a UTSA dog jersey online.
I love it, man. I love it. So I love that the community support is there and that so many people were there to watch it. And I tell you, Jared, more people would watch the spring game if it was watchable. But if you're not there physically, the only thing you could do is listen to Uncle Andy. And while that's great for the spring game, it's not going to do much for you. You really got to be able to watch what's happening on the field to take anything from it. And we have been deprived of that as UTSA fans ever since the beginning. Because it's a Fiesta event, it always falls at about Easter time. So it's always been difficult for people, especially out of town, to make that travel, to make that trip for the spring game. And then now it'll be like in the middle of a week. This is on a weekday this year. It's difficult. And so when you're taking so much away, when you're taking so much opportunity for fans to go to the game away, you've got to give us an alternative. You got to give us a way to watch it. You couple that, and those are all just the UTSA side of things. But now you couple that with how damn good this team is now, all the recent program success, moving up to the AAC. So now you got to start playing with the big boys, right? And treating yourself like a big boy school. I should be able to watch that game from Houston with no freaking problem. I should be able to stream that game from my cell phone like nothing, and the fact that I can't, it's not Bush League, but it is amateur hour for sure, in my opinion.
I kind of disagree with that. I mean, how many programs do you think stream their spring game?
It's not a lot, huh?
I would say less than 30.
Even whenever we get to the next level of where U of H, of what UTSA is trying to go to, like a U of H, an SMU, those kind of programs, they're not really streaming their spring game.
No, I don't think so. I don't even think all Power 5 schools do.
So what are your thoughts on that? Should UTSA go out of their way to give fans a stream for the spring game, or no?
I don't think so. I mean, because they would have to pay a company to broadcast it, produce it, right? They don't have an on-campus stadium, so you'd have to like pay someone to go out and set up cameras and set up the internet stream and all that stuff. I mean, you're looking at a pretty hefty cost to do that. So, and they probably wouldn't charge people like a pay-per-view type service.
Right. It'd be a free stream.
I don't think that many people would actually watch it.
It would need to be decent. Yeah. So how many people actually tune in to the UTSA spring game? Maybe 150.
Yeah.
And
I mean, because like when UTSA is like on one of those Conference USA Facebook games, like it's only a couple thousand people watching it, right? And that's for both teams. So if you take that down to a spring game, and of course, like the most hardcore people are going to be there watching it in person. I don't think it makes sense from a monetary standpoint to do that. I agree. It'd be cool. I'm all for it.
When you bring up the monetary aspect, because, you know, in my head, I like to think we could just stick a camera up there and call that a stream. But if we did do that, so many people would be on Twitter bitching about the production quality of the spring game stream. And it would have just ended up blowing up at UTSA Athletic Space. Yeah. Trying to do something nice for fans, and they don't appreciate
we can't even really stream our men's basketball games that well. So to expect to broadcast a spring game from a high school stadium, I think is a step too far.
Pipe dream.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it happens someday, but like there's probably a lot of steps that have to happen before something like that is easily achieved. Okay.
So other argument then, would you like for UTSA to maybe put in some effort to changing the way it's scheduled, or, you know, maybe get it before Easter and get it on a nice week, an easier weekend for people to go travel out there on a Saturday afternoon?
I don't think that most people even know what a spring game is.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice like little touch point, I think, with like your donors outside of a football season. I don't think there's like a huge market for people to go watch a practice.
Like, really good points here. Yeah.
I know like our listener base doesn't feel that way because we're the most hardcore of the hardcore.
But spring games aren't for fans.
No.
Right. I think that's kind of what you're saying here.
If you're doing it for fans, like you're going to play your ones like the whole game, you know, to like increase the entertainment factor and all of that.
That's not what a spring game is for. It's not the reason that you have a spring game. It's for evaluating. That's kind of the camp that I'm in. It's for evaluating. And I think in Traylor's post-game press conference, he says eval like 14 times.
Right.
Eval, just want to get some good evals. Right. And I was loving it. But yeah, that's what it's really about. It's not for spectacle. It's not for fans to come in and dress all up and bring their nachos and get all amped up. It's not for that. It's for practice.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, it's pretty common for a program to just cancel their spring game. Like if they have a bunch of injuries or something happens, you know, it's not at all uncommon for a spring game to just disappear. But if you're really going to play up the spring game and like put a stream out there and, you know, move the dates around to try to increase attendance and stuff, it can put you in a bad spot, I guess.
Yeah, it's just not really. Yeah, we're moving mountains for no reason at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think you bring. Yeah, I think you've made it a point. You made your point. I agree. Yeah, it's not what it's for.
Yeah.
Focus. Task at hand. Okay. Well, before we get into the actual XOs of ones and twos, some donor shout outs.
Yeah, definitely. We actually had 3 new or returning subscribers this past week.
Yes.
To me, I took that as a clear sign that you guys enjoyed baseball coverage and you want more baseball coverage. Adrian, I don't know if you feel the same way.
I think it's been a consensus. I mean, I'm getting in the comments and the replies. I'm seeing it everywhere. The people love the baseball coverage. They want more of it.
Yeah, it's rare for us to pick up 3 subscribers within a week in the off season for football. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Of course, that includes Jimmy at the booster tier, Colin at the insider tier, and Joey also at the insider tier.
Nice.
So we're going to keep the baseball coming. for sure.
Oh yeah.
I live tweeted a full game the other day. It felt good, man. I grew up a baseball guy, so
that's right.
I kind of fallen off on MLB a little bit, so it's nice to like really dive deep into baseball every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got more, I guess, special items coming for baseball.
More to come there.
So
teaser alert.
We've been teasing the listeners so much, but we're trying to be strategic and methodical about this stuff. But you guys will see. Probably this week, you'll see what we're talking about.
And it's all about proper rollouts.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, a rollout done wrong can just kill it, right? Can kill everything. So and we've learned through a couple of years of trial and error that we've got to do these things the right way. So
absolutely,
yeah. I went to Audible marketing school. Figure it out, baby.
Yeah, that's two proud graduates that they offer us College of Business. Well, outside of our new subscribers, of course, we want to give a big thank you to our long time and returning Patreon subscribers, including our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, and Zach Espedicueta, the San Antonio Podcast Network. Great to see Zach back on the air with his most recent episodes. And of course, shout out to our Board of Trustees members, Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy Tailgating, and Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Burger King Tailgate. Excuse me. I actually got to hang out with John quite a bit the spring game, so that was nice.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So it's been 2 spring games for Trailer and 2 ties, 8-8 last year, 7-7 this year. I guess that's a good thing. I guess it means, the offense and the defense are keeping up with each other.
Okay, I think there's a controversy about how this spring game ended, though.
Yeah, I have heard a bit of this. Yes.
I was like, it's so hard when you're up in the stands and like there's like minimal PA announcements, if any. There's no replay video or anything.
Sure.
So I was like really confused as to what was going on. I thought that it had ended and that the defense had won, I think it was, but then they just like decided to like let a kicker come out and kick, and the kicker missed it. And then that was like a point for one of the teams and it ended as high. It just felt like really manufactured.
Right.
And I think Coach Traylor like had a big grin on his face in the post-game interview. I think he knows how you bring the game.
I saw that.
Sweet. But yeah, I mean, the scoring for spring games is just silly. I had multiple people ask me like how the scoring was working, and I was like, dude, like you're just let it go, man. Like it's not going to make sense.
It's not going to make sense, right? Up. And again, and again, I guess it's important to highlight that's not what the spring game's for, right? It's about evaluating really on the individual basis, right? And Jared, I know you were out there with the journal in hand, just freaking scratching notes and that thing. So where do we even begin? I mean, I'm assuming we got to start in the backfield because that's where I've been hearing the most talk come from.
Yeah, man. The quarterbacks impressed me. And, I'm really critical of quarterback play.
You are.
And I didn't have really high expectations for kind of the lower half of the depth chart or the roster of the quarterback position. And those guys really impressed me, man. Cam Peters has improved tremendously. If he had to play this season, I think he'd do okay, right? I wouldn't feel comfortable, with him as a starter just yet. I think he's still got a lot of room to grow, to tap into his potential. He's a pretty good athlete. He's got a pretty solid arm. He made some throws that I didn't think he had in him. I was like, I had to look over at my friend and be like, was that Cam Peters? Like, for real?
Double take. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that like his short game needs a lot of cleanup, right? He had a couple passes that were probably drops from the receiver, but Cam probably could have done a better job of placing them a little bit in a more catchable area for some of those second, third string receivers that might not have the hands and the balance and the range of like a Zachary Franklin. But he did good, man. I was just like really surprised and really encouraged by his performance.
Is he pretty beastly to watch back there? He's got towering stature, man. 6'4". He's so much taller than any quarterback we've had.
Yeah, he's still pretty lanky. I think if he added, another like 10 to 20 pounds of muscle, then yeah, he would definitely look the part back there. But he's still a little lanky, so he doesn't have quite that like imposing like pocket passer kind of build just yet.
Okay,
but he's getting there. He's getting there for sure.
Yeah, but definitely saw the arm strength kind of show itself.
Yeah, and I started off with Cam Peters because that was like my personal biggest surprise of one of the guys on the whole roster that just of outperformed my expectations. But of course, the top two, Frank Harris and Eddie Lee were both great. Both of those guys are ready to roll. Frank was just normal. Frank, I don't think he made a single mistake in the spring game that I noticed. He had a couple passes that he missed on, but they were like close enough that the receiver could have made a play.
Sure.
There was one that, Frank might have underthrown it by just a couple of yards, but it was still a catchable ball, drew pass interference. Just typical Frank, just out there putting the team in position to win. He ran the ball a lot. He probably had the green light to run because they weren't tackling a little bit more than he would in a usual spring. But yeah, he looked good. He was running around really well. And I was joking with someone and I was like, man, who needs a running back when you got Frank Harris back there? They're just kind of run him more. Eddie Lee's ready to go. If Frank takes a big hit, Eddie Lee can step right in and do his thing.
Dude. And how about Eddie?
He's doing what we expect him to do. The hype it's building, but he keeps improving. He keeps getting better. He looked real comfortable running the offense. He's got a great arm, great vision, great patience. He made a lot of plays that it was just really mature quarterback play. You know what I'm saying? For the guy who hasn't played many snaps at the collegiate level just yet, he made it several completions to his third option, which was so great to see because that shows that he can read the defense and the speed of the game isn't overwhelming to him. That's the biggest adjustment that a lot of quarterbacks have to make. Like they might have thrown for 4,000 yards their senior year in high school, but then you jump up to the level where the safeties and cornerbacks are all running 4.4, 4.3 40s. That speed of the game really messes with you. And I think Eddie has made that adjustment, and I think he's ready to roll for sure.
I'll be damned.
He had a couple of good escapes from the pocket as well. He might not be Frank Harris when he's in the open field, but he's got some legs on him.
He's aware. You got to be aware and you also got to be ballsy enough to make a move. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that have the foot power to do it, but kind of like the cojones to escape pocket pressure, right? And they'll kind of fold up down there. Yeah. And there's one more quarterback that
there is
to talk about.
Yeah, there is. Diego Tello, man.
Whew, what a beast. Dude.
Every time we've done a recruiting breakdown, in the past year or so, we talk about Diego.
Sneaks his way into the conversation somehow.
I think we're all kind of tiptoeing around talking about Diego because he doesn't have a ton of film, I don't think he started until he was junior in high school, and then he got hurt his senior year.
First game of his senior season.
Yeah, first game
of the season. Yeah, season injury.
And I mean, for a guy who just got there a couple of weeks ago, he's an early enrollee, right? Like, he's one of those guys. Like, he has to leave practice for a weekend to go to prom, that kind of deal, right? He looked comfortable out there. He was wearing like a hoodie underneath his shoulder pads. So like
the steez, I love it. Oh man, dude, come on.
He did not back down. He did not look intimidated to be out there. And just like I was saying with Eddie, I thought he was reading the defense really well. You can tell that he's still not as in command as Frank and Eddie Lee are, but I'm way more encouraged to watch him develop now because I kind of just had the feeling that with the season UTSA had last year, they could have gotten a higher profile, more highly rated recruit, right? I think that's fair to say, right? But he looked solid, man. He really, really did. And for a guy as young as he is to go out there and make the plays he did, I think it's going to be okay.
Impressive, huh?
Yeah.
It sounds to me like this group is more cerebral than quarterback rooms that we've had in the past.
I think they're really well coached.
Yeah, you keep mentioning the ability to read.
I was worried that
defense.
Coach Looney, having been the quarterback coach, leaving to Illinois, that there was going to be a drop off in the development of the quarterbacks and their ability to read the field and all that stuff. But I think what I saw from the third string and fourth string quarterbacks this past week, I think they might be better off under Coach Stein as quarterback coach than they were under Looney. And it's way too early to say that definitively. But they're getting coached up for sure. Yeah. So I don't know if there's ever been a time in UTSA football history where the third string and fourth string quarterbacks would go out and impress me.
And impress you, yeah.
So, and specifically for their ability to control the offense and just take what the defense is giving them. In the past, if a third string quarterback has impressed me, it's like, oh, they've got a cannon or they're really athletic, not like, oh man, they can really manage this game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Big difference.
Yeah. There's a lot more potential. So the other backfield group, it was a little more, a couple more questions still, right? When we look over at the running backs.
Yeah, definitely. And it was really hard to evaluate the running backs in the spring game because, like I said, they were pretty much playing two-hand touch. So there was like no chance for them to break a tackle. There were times that the defense had an awful angle, but because they got their hand on the running back, it was whistle dead.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So it's really hard to read much into that.
Vanilla sort of run for the running backs.
And they just didn't run the ball a lot. I mean, I was joking with some friends like, oh, we're an air raid offense now. But I think that's more out of necessity due to the injuries to the running back position than, a change in preference or play calling. Ty Edwards got the lion's share of the snaps with the first team, and he looks good. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be as explosive as, Sincere was, but I think that he's going to be the guy that can kind of lean into the defense and turn a 3-yard run to a 6-yard run. So I think he's been really effective for UTSA. I think like if he's a starter, I think UTSA is in totally fine shape, right? To me, it's just more of like, what's that second and third string behind him look like? Because you have to have 2 guys for sure. 3 is nice. Coach Traylor said he wants to have 5. I don't think there's 5 guys right now.
Okay. That's fair to say. How many are there at most? 3, huh?
I guess so. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say.
You're kind of stretching
because we don't.
There's 3.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to be really available next year. Is D'Anthony Lewis going to be good to go? Kadrick Cobb's his leg looked in bad shape. I mean, he was really hobbling around out there.
Yeah,
can't imagine him being ready to go for the fall. Jalen Lott, I'm not sure. That's a question mark there as well as far as his health goes. But I've talked about Justin Rodriguez, a walk-on running back on the pod several times.
Yeah, dude. Justin Rodriguez, 5'7", 180. He's just a tank. He's just a little tank down there, isn't he?
Dude, he's a little lightning bolt is what he is, man.
Oh, man. He's got the burners, huh?
He can scamper. Yeah, dude. Yeah, he is really elusive in space. And even within tight windows, like when there's a defense around him, he can still shift around really quickly. So for him to be the walk-on in this group of like injury depleted running back rooms, he's got to be one of the better walk-on running backs that UTSA's ever had. And I think he's got a big playability in him just, with his pure speed. I'd love to see him get some chances this fall.
That'd be cool. I would love to see him get some chances too.
Yeah.
Well, I think, we're at that, especially at the beginning of the season. I think we might sort of see like a running back by committee until that position sort of figures itself out, and even if you have guys that are fully healthy and ready to run, I mean, who's to say Juwan Williams is going to be able to handle being a running back at this level right out the gate, right? I mean, he's
I'm glad you mentioned Juwan because I just realized I had forgotten to talk about him earlier. We're talking about the running backs.
Well, he looked good out there from what I understand.
He looked way more natural running back than he ever did a wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't realize that Juwan had been a running back his whole life until I can't remember if he was a freshman or sophomore at Judson and their quarterback got hurt. And he had to step in as like emergency quarterback, and he was just so good there. They couldn't take him away from quarterback. But growing up, he had always been a running back like his brother. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because Jarvion didn't play running back until like his senior year. But obviously, Jarvion coached him up at running back quite well, and that had always been his natural position when he was younger. And yeah,
so Juwan always a running back growing up. Jarvion later on in his playing career converts to running back.
Right.
So you tell me Julon's the more natural runner of the two? What?
Well, I don't know if I'd say like more natural than Jarvion. I never saw what Jarvion was like, as a running back much when he was younger. But Julon just like really comfortable, like reading blocks. He was actually like really patient in the backfield, which surprised me because usually a guy that's moving position, they're not going to have that kind of instinct to let
Jarvion was good at that though, wasn't he? Jarvion was great at
Jarvion was great at that. Yeah.
Waiting and being patient, and hesitating until that block developed just a little bit more so he could kind of wiggle through. Yeah.
Something I always love to see running backs do, and I want to say Marshawn Lynch used to do this a lot, is they would be in the backfield and there was nowhere to run, and they would kind of put their offhand out in front of them to like let the lineman know, like, hey, I'm right behind you. I'm going to follow your block kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I saw Julon, I don't know if he went all the way to do it, but he put his offhand out to start to kind of do that at least once. And that kind of caught my eye as something that like, that's something an experienced running back does. That's not something that a converted wide receiver would instinctively do.
Right. Very intricate move there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think Julon's going to provide some really good snaps for UTSA. I don't know if he's going to be like RB2 next to Edwards. And, again, I think we got to say, as we've said in previous episodes, it's really likely that UTSA is going to go get some stud running back out of the transfer portal. That's going to completely change this equation. But I think like even like worst case, if Julon is like the third string running back as like a change of pace back, I think he can flourish in that role and have a nice little 500 yard, 5 touchdown kind of season.
Yeah.
And he's such a gifted athlete. It almost felt like his abilities were kind of being wasted a little bit with him being buried in the depth chart, a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So even if he's, the fourth running back, I still think that's better for him and the team. Because he's going to be more impactful there and just help out more.
Well, sticking on the skill positions, then we were just talking about wide receivers. The wide receivers, I mean, they didn't need too much maintenance in the first place, right?
Joe Price is a lucky man. They're freaking stacked, dude. They're absolutely stacked. And all the praise that I gave the quarterbacks, you got to give a lot of that to the receivers, man, because though those third string and fourth string guys were balling out.
Yeah. I mean, how do you even pick which receivers go on the field week in and week out? You have so much talent in the room. I mean, it's just incredible. It really is. It really is. And it looks like it's going to be Hands University for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said,
Dre Spriggs was really impressive. I think that he'll be a redshirt freshman coming into the season. He was kind of a late bloomer in high school, if I remember correctly. He's really coming into his own. I see a lot of JT Clark in his game as far as like his ability to kind of leap and grab balls out of the air. He kind of looks like a basketball player sometimes when the way he can high point the ball like JT does, really great. It was also really encouraging to see Kennedy Lewis kind of see the light kind of come on for him a little bit. From what I understand, he's kind of had some ups and downs throughout his time at UTSA and also when he was at UT Austin, that, he would have practices where it looks like he was, absolute stud and was going to be a standout. And then sometimes he would kind of slink away and, you're kind of like expecting a little bit more out of him. What he showed in the spring game was super encouraging, and he's still a young player as well. I think he'll be a redshirt sophomore next year, if I remember correctly. But those two guys, I think could make a core of a really, really strong receiving unit for the next, 3+ years at UTSA.
Oh, man.
Plenty of other guys look good too. Jaron Randall had some great plays.
Yep.
There's Karch Gardner, I think, is a guy that, can do some good things for UTSA if he's able to see the field, just because, that top three, or the top four, I guess, of Zakari, Cephas, Clark, and Tyke. It's hard to get those guys off the field, but there's a lot of guys that could be big time players for UTSA if given the opportunity.
Gardner was a transfer, huh?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, transfer from Arkansas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so he looked decent out there too, huh?
Yeah, Trayvon Bradley had some good catches as well.
Trayvon Bradley had a touchdown. Yeah,
that's right. That's
touchdown catch. Yeah.
Didn't see a whole lot from the Colorado transfer, Chris Carpenter, but I know that he just got on campus. He's probably still figuring the offense out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And then what? offensive line, I suppose, before we switch.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got to talk about the tight ends too, brother.
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh! Is my boy Dan Dishman out there running alongside Oscar, or what?
Let's just talk about the tight end first. I think we're kind of leading into it. I think Dishman and Cardenas is a great combo. I think they complement each other in ways that Cardenas and Watson didn't really, because it kind of felt like they were playing with 7 offensive linemen when both Cardenas and Watson were out there. It was really effective. There's nothing innately wrong with that, but Dishman just has such a different skill set than Cardenas that it just feels a lot more like a pepper and salt situation.
What are those two skill sets? What's Oscar's and what's Dishman's?
Well, so Oscar is a lot more powerful, right? He's like 260, 270, something like that. So he can really move the pile at the line of scrimmage, with those combo blocks, releasing to the next level. He can really seal off the edge. He's got good hands too, but Dishman has a lot more speed. He's quicker on his feet. He had a touchdown catch, I believe, and he can just stretch the defense vertically, right? And that's something we haven't really seen from UTSA in a while.
He's more of a receiving threat.
Yeah, I guess like Shaq Williams is probably the last guy that could kind of take the top off of the defense,
right?
When he released the tight end. Or was it Carlos Strickland? I can't remember which of those two guys played most recently. But UTSA hasn't really had a tight end in that mold in a while. So if Dishman's able to stay healthy this year, if he can put on a little bit more muscle in this offseason,
sure,
he's gonna be a big time player for UTSA. And those kind of tight ends do really well in Conference USA. UAB's had a couple of guys like that have had great careers. FAU's had a couple of guys like that went on to the league. North Texas has had a couple. So I think Dan Dishman can really find his niche going forward.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I love that. And it could be a lethal combination to have both of those. And Oscar just does such a good job of just being the utility and doing a little bit of everything. But you're absolutely right. We haven't really had that true receiving threat, kind of another guy that defensive backs have to look out for in the receiving game. And it probably in and
Dan can block too. He's not going to overpower anyone, but he's really good at working his ankles, moving laterally and getting to the outside.
He's not scared to get in there and make some contact.
No, it's not one of those situations. And I think this was a criticism of him when he committed to UTSA, is that he was a wide receiver playing tight end. That's not what I saw at all.
That's not what you saw. Yeah.
No. I mean, he was ready and willing to go out and get a block, especially
sacrifice that body, baby.
Yeah, especially those outside linebackers, those strong safeties up in the box. Yeah, he was getting it done for sure. He had one block that sprung like I think a 12, 15-yard run that if Dishman hadn't positioned himself with his butt facing the sideline,
right,
that play would have been blown up easily. So really excited to see him to continue to physically develop. If he could have that same speed and ability to stretch a defense, but play at like 240, 250 instead of like the 220, 230 he's at now.
Yeah.
And it could be a good one.
Put another 10, 15 pounds would be big time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So offensive line.
I hate to say it, but David Morgan had the same career path.
Yeah. And but David Morgan really was like the everything tight end, that he did both. I mean, he could
not at the beginning.
Not at the beginning. Sure. Okay. Sure. But by the time he left UTSA, he was both a vertical threat and a blocking threat.
Exactly. Oh. That's the best case for Dishman. I think he's capable of doing that.
Really?
Not to say that he will, just that he's capable.
He's capable of. He could put on a little bit more size. He could definitely get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would you say David Morgan was first? More of the blocking or more?
More of the receiving.
More of the receiving.
He was pretty skinny when he first got to UTSA. It took him a while to really flesh out as a tight end.
Make that Norse Viking.
I feel like people forget this. David didn't really have much of an impact until his senior season.
Right.
He had some injuries in there too.
Quiet when he was an underclassman.
Exactly. So in some ways, Dishman, has a chance to surpass like Morgan's like career span as far as production goes.
Output wise, definitely.
Right. Well, I don't know. Will he be as good as Morgan was come his senior season and then go on and have that NFL career? I don't know. But I do think that he's on that path. Like if he can build mass and commit to the weight room the way that David Morgan did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he could be more effective on the squad prior to his senior season.
Right, exactly.
Be effective now.
Yeah.
Okay. So offensive line, a couple holes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they're good overall. I think the depth's as good as it's ever been for UTSA. They, part of me is like they gave up too many sacks. But again, you got to go back. They're playing two-hand touch. There were 2 sacks that Eddie Lee took that got blown dead. No way that would have been a sack in a live game.
They're not firing off the ball trying to knock dudes out in a spring game. It's a little patty cakey out there, sure.
Right. So I think like while my initial gut reaction was like they gave up way too many sacks, you could probably cut those in half for real action. And
chalk it to the spring game. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's probably a little bit more digestible. Then, of course, they're moving guys in and out, both within the spring game itself, but also throughout the spring, trying to get a feel for who fits best where. Several guys move positions. Overall, I think offensive line was solid. I think that core of the starting group is super, super strong, right? I think Vinley Tanafu, is that how you say his name?
Tanafu.
Yeah. I mean, he could start easily. UTSA is so stacked at the interior. I don't know if he will, but he looked really good. I thought Allen was very solid at left tackle. Looked very comfortable. I think he did give up 1 sack, but overall, I was really happy with that. Mekhi Hart had a crushing block that led to a first down run. And it just really reminded me of how elite Mekhi Hart is when he's fully healthy. Like the way he fires on the ball, the leverage that he plays at, and his strength is really, really impressive, right? So hopefully he can put, a full season together playing at that level and really be that all conference lineman that he's fully capable of being. Gosh, I don't know. It's hard to evaluate because there's so many bodies moving in and out all the time.
Were any of those freshmen in the mix? Ronnie Garza get out there?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you brought up Ronnie Garza. I had been a little bit discouraged throughout the spring because you never really heard Ronnie's name come up as far as the starting left tackle position. And that made me a little bit concerned, right? I'm always like preaching patience with linemen. It's so hard to be an 18, 19-year-old offensive lineman going against those 23-year-old defensive ends, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I probably let myself get a little too discouraged about Ronnie and his outlook at UTSA. He played really well. I thought he looked really good with that second and third string team.
Holding his own.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. He moved really well for his size. And he was strong. He was really strong. So it was good. I watched him really closely because throughout the spring, I kind of had a bad feeling that he wasn't getting brought up more often. Because even like Luke Lapez, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him, the kid from Humble. Yeah.
Oh, he was hurt. Yeah.
So that's right. Be damned.
Yeah, he got hurt right before the spring game too, unfortunately.
Was River Gordon in there getting snaps?
I think so. Yeah. It was really hard to evaluate those interior linemen in a spring game.
The freshmen, yeah.
Yeah, because they're just moving in and out, and it's hard to see from the stands. There's no replays.
Well, I guess River's a redshirt freshman now.
Right.
Yeah. Of course. Definitely.
Yeah. And, Frankie Martinez was out hurt as well. I was really looking forward to seeing him because, he actually played as a walk-on freshman last year. So hopefully he'll be good come the fall.
Oh, I feel bad, Jared, to get to see all of his hogs out there now.
No, man.
Looking forward to it.
No, there were some big nasties missing.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought offensive line overall was good. It wasn't like crazy impressive, but they also kind of get a roll deal with a whole two-hand touch deal.
You can't really expect anything. You can't expect much more from a spring game. Sure.
But, there have been plenty of UTSA spring games that I've gone to in the past where I'm like, this is a crisis. This offensive line is in shambles.
You definitely didn't feel that way. Thank God. Okay.
Yeah. To kind of start a transition over to the defense, I thought the offensive line played good, even though the defensive line looked super impressive.
And defense did play the better game from what I understand.
Yeah, I would say so.
Measures, right? But defensive line particularly, or the whole front seven, or where were you really seeing the ferocity?
Defensive line really stood out as always. I mean, that's just kind of become a staple of UTSA's football program.
That's right.
The defensive line is going to be stacked and they're going to play really hard. That's exactly what I saw. So it really, like, when you look back to the offensive line discussion, you kind of have to grade them on a curve, because this defensive line they're going against is going to be one of the better ones in the conference.
Yep. Always.
I think the starters were Brandon Matterson out wide. Who's the nose tackle? Oh, Brandon Brown, a nose tackle, and Osiris Simon, the other defensive end / defensive tackle.
Yeah.
All those guys are great. Man, I think Simon's going to be an all-timer for you. Well, all-timer, that might be a bit much, but I think that he's going to be a leader on this defense. I think he's going to have a great season. He looks so natural, so comfortable out there at that 5 technique. But outside of those guys that started, I thought the 2 transfers that have come in both look really good. What are their names? I think Zach Causey is one. I think he played nose tackle. He looked really good.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? It was like a bounce back. Chase Davis was the name I was looking for.
Chase Davis.
Yeah. So he is the sophomore who signed with Nevada out of high school and then went to Los Angeles Community College. I think he's gonna be really good. He's still young also. So like sometimes with those transfers, you look at the immediate impact, and I think that he will have one. But if he was just a regular sophomore that UTSA recruited at high school, I would be super, super stoked on him. Kind of like everything I was saying about Osiris Simon. I think Chase Davis is like right there with him. And then Ronald Triplett, the Kansas State transfer, he put on a ton of muscle. He's looking really good. And they played him a lot. I think it's clear that, they're looking to develop him and see what he's capable of doing. And I think he answered that call. He played really well. I don't know if he had a whole lot of like major impact plays, but just snap by snap, he looked really competitive and was really holding his own out there.
How about Lamont McDougal?
I didn't notice him too much.
Okay.
Some of those older guys on the defense, I don't think they played a whole lot of, because they kind of know where they're getting with him.
Sure.
And I think he might have fallen into that category.
Probably.
Like the walk-on Jaden Jones played a lot. He had a really, really good sack. So I think some of the guys that they already know can get the job done, I think probably didn't play as much. And they were checking out some of the younger dudes a lot.
Well, tell us what we really need to know. Let's get back to these defensive backs.
I think it's good that UTSA has gotten a lot of commits in the secondary recently.
It's not getting me super jazzed up.
No, I mean, I think it's clear that that's the position that needs the most help right now.
I'll be damned.
Even with all the injuries at running back, I think the running back, you could kind of mask that a little bit. The offensive line is good. Quarterback play is good. Receivers are great. You can get by with average running back play. But when you're in the secondary and they're blitzing a lot and those defensive backs are on an island, you can't make up for that. There's nothing you can really do to disguise that other than not blitzing and dropping more guys into coverage. And it's not that it was a total disaster. I mean, I can only think of maybe one play. I think Trayvon Bradley's touchdown, he was just completely wide open. Like no one picked him up, just complete breakdown of coverage.
Yeah.
Which I guess in a certain sense, we saw a lot more of that last season than we did in this spring game. So maybe that's a good sign. But yeah, I don't know. Also, they were really, really low down the depth chart for the spring game for the secondary. I think Rashad Wisdom only played one series. Corey Mayfield didn't play. I don't think Kid Robinson played. I could be wrong about that one. So they were pretty down there, and it's a lot of guys that probably not going to be expected to contribute this year because they're so young. There were some struggles for sure. There were a lot of good plays too. But overall, I didn't leave like super encouraged with the secondary. And I think the recruiting efforts have matched that concern, I guess.
Right. It's definitely still an area that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Now, on a more positive note, Darwin Griffin has really blossomed, I think, this spring, moving over to that cornerback position. He actually started one of the cornerback spots in the spring game. He looked really good. He was one of those guys, like everyone around me was like, who's number 14 on defense? Who's number 14 on defense?
Wow. Okay. There's getting a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And a lot of chitter chatter. Very nice.
I did notice that Ken Robinson's bio on the roster switched to be cornerback / safety.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how to read into that one just yet. But yeah, I thought that was worth pointing out. I know UTSA has a lot of commits and signees at cornerback.
But clearly we're testing the waters there. I mean, we're trying different things out. We're experimenting a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, secondary, Jerry's still out on. How about linebackers? TBD. Yeah. A little more optimistic when you look at the linebacking group?
Yeah, I think so. I think
good.
Man, I could see an argument where the linebacker position could be the most improved for this defense compared to last year.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Not that they were terrible last year. And the outside linebackers, I think in particular, like really excelled because they had so many super seniors, like those guys have been living and breathing football for so long, they were great. But I think the interior, I think there's a big opportunity for them to improve. I thought Jamal Ligand looked like he had just stepped his game up a little bit. I thought he looked bigger and faster. He had a couple of pass rushes that, he was looking a little bit like Josiah Tauefa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A real hawk.
Yeah, just flying around the offensive line, going right through blocks, just like more powerful than I've ever seen him and more decisive than I've ever seen him. Just keep in mind, Jamal did not play linebacker very much in high school. He's still kind of getting his legs underneath him, even though he's been like a 2-year starter already. He still has, I think, that mental aspect is starting to clean up for him a little bit. So I think a really big season for Jamal is in store.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Another guy that we've kind of been talking about looking forward to seeing more of at that inside linebacker position is Caden Holt. So I think he'll be a redshirt freshman from New Braunfels Canyon. He's an impressive looking guy, I think like from a mass and a muscle standpoint, he still has a lot of work to do to get to the level like Jamal Ligand is on. And even like some guys in the past, that UTSA has had, he's like a little bit more slight of an inside linebacker than what you would typically see, but he moves really well in space. And there was one play in particular, it was like a cover 6 defense from UTSA, and he dropped into coverage like a good 15 or 20 yards and looked super comfortable doing it. I mean, I'm like, man, this guy could kind of play safety for UTSA maybe. Yeah, so I'm excited to see him start to mature a little bit. I don't know how much he'll play this year. I guess that probably depends on how the transfers that come in look. But I think he's definitely going to make a mark at UTSA throughout his time here.
Was Drew Prox out there?
Yeah, he played quite a good bit.
Notice they gave him the number 55, which was Josiah's. So,
okay.
I'm wondering,
are we making that a thing? Is that a thing?
I'm wondering if like they've got big expectations for him, or maybe strictly coincidence. Who knows? So inside linebacker, you do think we've got a lot of hope that's going to be a much stronger position.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll have to see how it plays out, but there was some good stuff there for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and then outside linebacker, man, I think they're going to reload here. I don't know if there's anyone individually that's going to be as good as Clarence Hicks was.
Sure. But
I think as a unit, they could be better, top to bottom, 2 deep, 3 deep.
I do think Adrian Taylor's going to have a hell of a year this year.
Dude, Day looked crazy good.
Yeah,
crazy good out there.
He's gonna turn some heads, I think.
As good as he was last year, I think he could be one of the most improved players heading into the season.
Right.
It was like he was moving at a different speed than everyone else on the field a couple of times in that spring game. And I think his football IQ has gotten crazy high. Like I feel like his anticipation skills of like what the offense is going to do has been great. And his brother looked good too. I mean, Danye had one play where he completely timed the snap perfectly. He got in the backfield and blew a play up like within a second and a half. It's crazy.
The next great brother pairing of UTSA.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And, it's interesting because UTSA recruited so well that position in this last class. Dude, some of those high 3-star guys, they might not really see the field that much. Wow. If Dadrian and Danye continue to play at the level that they have been, man, that position is stacked. And then at that kind of like will linebacker position, I think UTSA is in really good shape there as well. So Jomori Robinson is definitely going to be the starter. He made some really nice plays. I don't know if he had any sacks or tackles for losses, but he brought pretty good pressure when he was rushing the quarterback. I could see him having a season like how like how Clarence Six had his junior year, or would it be his regular senior year because he had the super senior? So like his 2020 season,
2 years ago.
Yeah. So he like racked up a ton of quarterback pressures, but had very few sacks. That was kind of the vibe I was getting from Robinson in the spring game.
Disruptive as all hell, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So he's out there and like, he's doing his thing. He's making the quarterback get through the play quicker. But I didn't see him like get there in time for the sack.
Sure.
Just so much yet. So if he gets coached up right, cleans up his technique and stuff like that, he has all the physical skills. There's no doubt about that. His ceiling is so high. Just how Clarence Six right now is kind of sneaking into that NFL conversation. I think we're going to have the same discussion about Jomori at this time next year. And hopefully he ends up being ahead of schedule and like really, jumps that early.
Yeah.
He looked good. I think he's definitely going to be the starter.
Nice.
Now the other two guys behind him also look really, really good as well.
Trey Moore.
Yeah. 2 local products. Yeah. Trey Moore, I think. We'll have to see how it shakes out with the new guys coming in. But I think Trey Moore was one of the guys that caught my eye the most on the defense. Still only a redshirt freshman, but he looks the part. He looks way older than he is. It seemed like he had a good read of the offense. Like his technique I thought was pretty good. His angles were good. He had one play where he ran Eddie Lee down from behind.
Ooh.
Yeah. And, Trey Moore's a 250-pound man.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
And he ran ELM down a good 6-7 yards away.
Let's go.
So that was impressive. He looked good in coverage. Yeah, so I think he's gonna be a good one for sure. And then Caleb Lewis, he didn't sparkle quite as much as Moore did, but he's kind of in that same boat. He looks comfortable out there. He plays more mature than you would expect, because I think he's a freshman as well, right?
Yeah, he went to Steele. No, he's a redshirt.
Redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
Those guys are in really good shape, man. Yeah. Ton of potential. For both of those dudes.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So it looks like, for the most part, we're pretty comfortable with everything except for secondary, and maybe a little bit of question marks around running back, but we're confident that that's going to take care of itself. Yeah. And again, I want to reiterate just like the level of depth that I saw had me feeling really good about the program overall. Might be a step back from last season, but I think when you look at the entirety of the roster, all 125 guys, UTSA is light years ahead from where they've been last year and years in the past. Right. Maybe like immediate depth, like on the 2 deep for this season. But when you like there's a couple of spots, right? There's a couple of spots that had those question marks. The staff's trying to work through those in recruiting right now. But like when you look at like player by player on the roster, there are so few spares. There have been times in the past that you would like scroll through the roster online and you're like, dude, half these guys have zero impact. And like, I don't see them ever becoming a big time player for UTSA. I don't feel like that about many guys on this roster right now. Yeah. They can all compete for a spot to have a big impact. Yeah. Yeah. I know, it's crazy. And it's also to the point where like, if UTSA was out of scholarships and like, let's say a 5-star guy wanted to come in, they had to clear some space. It's gotten pretty hard to find that one guy that you're going to ship off. Yeah. Oh, man, it's just wild how far this roster has come in such a short amount of time. It's amazing. Man, we're like almost at an hour. We haven't talked about half the stuff that we were going to talk about. Well, usually usually the spring game recap does get its whole own podcast.
I know.
So usually we do some diving into it, but I mean, you know, we can just run through the carousel, right? We don't have to dive into it. I think we may want to spend just a couple minutes maybe talking about the other football news, but we can get through our names kind of quick. You want to, or do you want to
speed run it?
You want to speed run it, or you want to roll it over to Patreon? What do you think?
I think I want to roll it over, to be honest with you.
Give it its just due.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, how about we hit on Tony Wallace?
Let's do that.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Sure.
Let's close it out with football recruiting.
Let's stay on football, and then we'll give you all the other sports on Patreon. Rightfully so.
See,
yeah.
Subscribe to patreon.com/almanautical. Get the goods. No, we really wanted to cover everything in this episode. It's just there's too much, man. It's too much. Okay, so other football recruiting nuggets. So, like we said, secondary needs some help for sure. I don't think there's the bodies there. I don't think there's the experience there. So Tony Wallace, it looks like, is transferring to UTSA from TCU.
Wow.
So this is a guy who's had a pretty interesting career. I think UTSA will be like his fourth school.
Yeah. So he went to Independence Community College prior to TCU, but he actually began his college career at Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what happened there, but somehow he went from Arizona to Independence and then made it to TCU.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's hard to know what to expect from him. You know, like the transfer from West Virginia that UTSA got, Nick Troy Fortune, like he's had huge success in his career. You know, he was a starter at West Virginia for every game he was healthy. We haven't really seen that kind of production from Tony Wallace, but he was one of the higher rated JUCO cornerbacks when he was coming out of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a physical standpoint, he's got tools, right? I think like if put in the right position and coached up well, he could be a really like elite cornerback.
He could shine.
Conference USA.
No doubt.
But the fact that he's gone through so many schools and like just hasn't really put it together at any one place just yet, it's hard to be like quite as amped up for this one as we were for like Detroit Fortune or
because you don't see any injuries there. It's not like the injuries derailed him.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there could have been. I just
maybe, maybe small tweaks, right? But
yeah,
nothing that you see in when you look at his bios or anything, right? None that happened in a game or anything. So you got to wonder, is it something else that's keeping him off?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, has he just had really stiff competition at the two Power 5? Excuse me, at the two Power 5 schools that he's been at?
Because he was pretty talented at community college and. Yeah, he seems to be agile as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has really good makeup speed on his shooter film.
Yeah, definitely. So a question mark, but another one of those like safe bets, right? Huge ceiling potential. But I mean, what do you got to lose?
Exactly. I mean, UTSA is so thin in the secondary. If you can get a guy with his athletic ability onto campus right now, you got to go for it. There's so much playing time to be had. There's so many depth questions. I'm all for this. Absolutely.
I just think that we've done a better job of picking up these type of transfers. Mm-hmm. I think the level of transfer that we've got has just been a lot more quality under the Traylor regime. And he's done a good job of getting these safe bets, these low risk guys where it's like, well, dude, this guy pans out. It could be fantastic.
Dude, not to throw shade against other Conference USA West programs and not to single anyone out because there's many to pick from. But when you look at the transfers that a lot of the other schools in Conference USA are getting, they're getting like FCS transfers. Some of them have really good stats. Some of them don't. But what the ceiling for those guys is so much lower than the commits than the transfers that UTSA is pulling in, right?
Right. They really feel like a pipe dream, right? Where you get these Power 5 transfers, and it's super easy for casual fan to sit there and convince himself this is going to be UTSA's X factor. It's for sure.
Yeah, and it's like if you trust your coaching, like you got to think that you can develop these guys and put them in the position where now that they've quote unquote stepped down a level or whatever, going from the Power 5, that then they can play with new confidence and really just get those extra reps and become just absolute standouts. So and I really like the strategy there.
the development's key. And look, we've done a good job of doing it so far under this regime. So yeah, I like it. So Tony Wallace is official. He's already announced.
I don't know if he is, man.
No?
Not sure. Because like he posted him in a UTSA jersey on his Instagram, but like it didn't say like I'm committed or anything like that. I still think that he's going to end up at UTSA for sure. I don't have any questions about that. But I don't think he can sign right now. I
don't know if the ink's on the paper yet. Yeah,
exactly.
I got you.
It's just a matter of time, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was weird that he didn't like say like I'm committed to UTSA or anything like that. Because guys post pictures of themselves in jerseys all the time. You know, it's like you got to take that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm sure he's going to come to UTSA.
Well, there have been a lot of players posted pictures in jerseys for our other sports, baby, and we will hop on that when we talk about women and men's basketball on the Patreon podcast. When we give you guys your baseball news updates, and don't forget women's golf, baby, in the CUSA championships right now. And I guess we're also in the mix for a couple of other football transfers, but that's still kind of remains to be seen. Right?
Yeah, we could talk about that on the Patreon as well.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah. All right, cool. Awesome. Well, Adrian, if you're down, I think we can wrap this one up and hop right into our Patreon recording and then post both this week, if that sounds good to you, man.
Dude, I think it sounds awesome. I think it's
right. We'll build a little hype. Go subscribe to the Patreon. All right. Well, thank you guys as always for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this nice dose of football in the middle of April. Hopefully it holds you over for a couple more months. Yes. And we'll see you guys on Patreon later this week.